a choice right now between fear and love.
Expanding reality.
Welcome to Expanding Reality Podcast. I am your host, Brandon Thomas. Today on the show, and that beautiful music that you're hearing in the background there, is Matthew Kocel. He is a cosmic throat singer and a sonic alchemist, which is amazing. That's such a cool title. He specializes in sound healing and medicine music as well. Now, all the ways, of course, to find him will be linked in the show notes, guys. We just hear about his amazing journey through music, what he's doing with music now, his trip through Peru, and how it was the inspiration for the song you guys will actually be played at the end of the episode. So I'm going to tack that on at the end so you can hear the full song with his permission. And then all the ways, like I said, to find him, his YouTube, his websites, will be linked in the show notes below. You guys, an amazing guy, one of the coolest people I've ever talked to. He's got such a great outlook on life. He's just sweet and warm, and we have a wonderful conversation. Getting to hear his story was a true honor. So thank y'all so much. Enjoy the episode, and we'll talk to you after that. So without further ado, Matthew Kocel. Welcoming to the show, it's Matthew Kocel, and we are grateful to have him here with us. Matthew, how are you today?
I'm brilliant. Really glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, of course, man. No, pleasure's all right here, man. We actually got connected through a mutual friend of ours who I've known for, well over at least a decade and a half. And Ellis contacted me and he said, I know a guy, he'd be great for your show. He's fascinating and he did not disappoint. So thank you, buddy, for setting that up. So please, for my audience that doesn't know you, that brilliant and part of that intro song that we just heard is your music, man. And I will be playing the full version of another song of yours at the end of this, as well as be linking to all the ways that folks can find you. So if you don't mind, sir, just tell the folks out there a little bit about yourself, man.
Well, I'm here to share music that gives people a direct experience of the oneness of all things. And it's been an amazing journey to get here. Started out as a rocker in my younger days, and what a long, strange trip it's been. But I'm very grateful to have found this mode of expression that I think literally opens portals to give people a new awareness, or just takes away the barriers in our perception of reality.
So cool. And it's unbelievable, man. Your music is so awesome. Now, I didn't know much about throat singing before I looked you up, and then you sent me some music and I was just blown away by it. I played some for my wife and my friend, and both of them were just blown away, man. It's just so damn cool. And the way you incorporate the Tibetan singing bowls, and then everything about it, man, it's just it makes you feel differently, and it's incredible. Now, it's also awesome that you started with the more traditional, I'll put traditional because that's subjective, a traditional music background with this as well. And yeah, your band, None of the Above, I saw your cover of War Pigs on your Instagram there, which I'll link to in the show notes, and it was awesome, dude. You're a badass, man, in any genre of music that you play. So let's begin at the beginning, man. What got you interested in music to begin with?
Yeah, well, I wasn't an especially talented kid. I was definitely not a prodigy by any means, but I was always attracted to music. I remember seeing little movies that my parents took of me dancing to the Beatles when I was like 4 years old, and just, the music was moving me. And as a teenager, I was quite disenfranchised, let's say, from my family, and didn't feel like I belonged, in that most fundamental sense in the world. And growing into my teen years, it was a really hard time for me. And music was one of the few things that really spoke to me and gave me a feeling of, something that made sense and made me feel, it sparked my emotions and helped me feel strong and loving and connected. And there were certain groups, one group in particular, Yes, was a major influence for me. And I was really into like, I'm going to date myself here, but I grew up listening to like Deep Purple and Led Zeppelin, Jimi Hendrix.
Boston, hell
Yeah,
I love Boston,
and I still love to listen to this music, but Yes was like something from a higher dimension. And it took me to this place that helped me resolve, I think, that quest for connection to spirit. Because I wasn't satisfied or being fed by the religious path that my family exposed me to, and in fact I had rejected it, as a teenager in my rebel years, and kind of threw out the baby with the bathwater. I didn't have anything to replace that with, so the music was like my lifeline, and so as I when I was about 18 years old, everyone's asking, what are you going to do with your life? And in my days, we were expected to go to college, if you're going to be an achiever and go get a degree and get set for life in some corporate job. And that didn't really resonate with me at all. And I had played different instruments growing up, starting with piano at a young age, second and third grade. And then I took trumpet and band class for a few years, and that didn't work for me. So I picked up guitar when I was in high school and started singing along with acoustic guitar. And, I was really inspired also by people that I would see at parties or in small gatherings where someone had a guitar and they could just make music. Like, it felt so magical that I knew I wanted to be able to do that at least.
Yeah, and there are dozens of college kids across the country that think that that's still cool, and the "Hey there, Delilah" is not the way you get laid, guys. Just come up with your own shit, okay? We're done with it. They're like, oh.
Good advice.
Yeah, if I could just pepper that into the conversation, man. We're over it, guys. We get it.
Love it. So I just decided, okay, I'm going to go to university and study music so I can get better at this and find my way to being a professional musician. And when I was about 18 years old, I formed my first band. And about a year later, I switched my main instrument from guitar to bass. I think it's because we needed a bass player. I thought, well, I'll give it a shot. I think I could do that.
That's usually the way that works out. Yeah.
Yeah. And I really kind of I really enjoyed holding that space within the group, between occupying that space between the drums and the guitar and the melodies, and finding a way to pull it all together through what I was doing. And I was singing as well. So in my second year of university, that's when I switched to bass guitar. And also in that second year, I was living off campus back with my parents in their home, because my father was in the process of dying from cancer, and I wanted to be close to him during that time. And that was a very really critical time of healing for me and healing my relationship with him, because it was not good for most of my memories that I have growing up. And I was reading the biography of Jimi Hendrix. It's called Voodoo Child of the Aquarian Age. And I was commuting with my friend and bandmate, who was also a classmate at university. And he was driving one day, and I took the book out. It was about an hour drive to school. And I started reading about a song I had never heard before. Little did I know, I didn't notice that my friend put a tape in the deck at the time, and the album was Cry of Love by Jimi Hendrix. I think it was released posthumously. And so I'm reading about this song that I had never heard before, and they had the lyrics to it. The song's called Belly Button Window. And I started reading the lyrics, and I got a few lines in, and it dawned on me that Jimmy was singing those very words on the stereo as I was reading them.
Yeah.
It could not have been more perfectly timed.
So cool.
Okay. Yeah. And I'd like, you know, it's like the Matrix.
Yes. Well,
Like,
those
what?
synchronicities like that, man. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I'm getting chills, I'm like, okay. So I took a vow that day because I figured this is a sign, whether it's from Jimmy or God or the universe, whatever it is, someone's talking to me. And I said, okay, whatever it takes, I'm going to do this. I'm in. And so I'm living in Colorado at that time, going to school in Pueblo, Colorado, living in Colorado Springs, and the nearest big city was Denver. Well, after my father passed, I finished that year of school, and then I quit and moved to Denver with the invitation to join a working rock band. And back in those days, most of the nightclubs had live music. And you could go out to bars all over the land, whether it's in a big city or out in farm country. You could find bars or nightclubs that had bands. And so this is a cover band. We're playing popular music at the time. And, I was the youngest in this group and hooked up with some, keen, seasoned veterans, and including the drummer who I'd seen play in the best cover band I've ever witnessed in my life. But he's also, there's a reason why he hadn't gone on to make it to a big time, as we called it, because he had a problem with alcoholism. So, I learned a lot of hard lessons during those years of playing in cover bands. And there was one time when my band literally broke out in a fist fight between members on stage in a packed house in McCook, Nebraska.
Were you guys playing an Oasis song?
I'm sorry?
It's a joke. Were y'all playing an Oasis song? Because they fought a lot. Yeah.
Oh, no.
It was before Oasis, probably.
Yeah. It was, remember the song, though, Mama let that boy play some rock and roll. I forget.
And they did not let them play rock and roll. It was counter to the message of the music. What happened?
So, that's how crazy it got. And anyway, after a couple of years, I had the realization that, okay, it's been good to get out here and get some experience and, as a performer, and got over my stage jitters early on and felt solid, but playing other people's music isn't going to get me where I want to go. So I started forming original music projects. And so I hooked up with one of my former bandmates who I'd been getting together with and writing songs. And we formed our first original music band, which was a power trio. Tommy was like this master of the Stratocaster. This guy could play any Hendrix, Jeff Beck, Johnny Winter, Stevie Ray Vaughan style. He could tear that stuff up and own it, and he's a good songwriter too. And we had a good relationship as co-writers, and it worked. And but here we are. We're in Denver, Colorado, which is not a music mecca. It's more of a sports city, still to this day, I think. And in those days, this is way before internet, so you needed to have a record deal, with a major label if you're going to get noticed, and get out of the bars. That's what needed to happen. And we didn't have the means to transplant ourselves to L.A. or New York or Austin or Nashville or anywhere, that would get us anywhere. So we just played around the bars, and, that band broke up, formed another one, that band, play around, do good music, and not really get noticed other than whoever we were playing in front of. And that would break up. I played in, over a 18-year period, I think about 15 bands.
You slut.
I was just too stubborn to quit.
Yeah.
And, I was like, well, I made this commitment, whatever it takes. And, I was like, okay, I'm just going to keep doing this because, what else have I got to go for? And, so I'm kind of a misfit in that way. I didn't really have anywhere else to turn, that inspired me other than music. And, in 1993, I formed my last band. It was called we called ourselves Critical Mass. Now, before anyone goes and looks up Critical Mass, we're not the Critical Mass that formed around that same time in San Francisco, which was a ska punk band.
It was accidental.
And we're not the other Critical Mass that formed later on in Canada, which was a Christian rock band. We were the other Critical Mass in Denver, Colorado, that never got noticed other than in Denver. But man, this band, I still love to listen to the music. We had a relationship between us. We were truly good friends, and I love these guys to this day. Consider them all close friends. We also had just a magic about how we would create music, sometimes spontaneously in rehearsal. Someone would play a riff, and then the whole band would jump in, and we would go off on a journey. It was just, oh God,
it's magic. It's magic.
It was magic, yeah. And so, I should mention also along the way, while I was trying to support myself while playing in these original music projects, which the pay was, absolute crap. If showing up in a bar and playing on a bill with a few other bands for a meager crowd.
Been there. Yep.
Yeah. So I was taking on some pretty crappy jobs to support myself. Again, just thinking, okay, it's worth it. It's going to be worth it. Whatever it takes, I'm going to just make this happen. Interestingly, that ended up, I got offered a job through some bandmates in the previous band that were working at a very high dollar strip club in town that had just opened up. And nice. I got a job there as a bar back, who's the guy who's like filling the ice bins and taking out the trash and loading the beer into the bins and stocking the liquor and hustling all over the place. And, the cash wasn't bad. It's actually pretty good.
How long did it take you to work up to center stage from barback?
6 months from barback to manager.
Oh, okay. I thought center stage like pole, like you were the.
No!
Oh, he's glossed it.
Made me lose my earpiece there.
I saw that.
No.
It's like, that's your dream, buddy. You can do it. You can do anything you want, man. That's great.
There were a couple of special events that they had when they're celebrating their anniversary that I got up on stage and lip synced Robert Palmer, but I kept my clothes on.
Nice. Okay. Well, you would have made more money. I don't know. I mean, you go from bar back to flash dance, in a couple of months. That's pretty good. That's really good.
Yeah, it was funny because the owner got in a fight as he was trying to kick out some young guy one night, and I ran over and intervened. I don't know what I was thinking, because I had at that point hadn't been in a real fight since 8th grade, but had a few months of martial arts training on me, and it worked out in my favor.
Yeah, and that was the time Karate Kid came out, so you were real confident. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess throwing a sidekick scared off some people, and way before MMA. So
right.
Anyway, so he made me a manager. Like, boom. And okay, so now I'm like not hustling around, taking out the garbage and loading the beer bins. I'm wearing a tux, and I got my long hair pulled back in a ponytail, doing the Steven Seagal thing. And
hell yeah, you were.
I'm like, just trying to look the part. And then I'm thinking, okay, so if there's professional athletes coming in there, football players. I'm like, okay, what am I going to do if this guy gets out of line? So that motivated me to dive into martial arts with every bit of my being. This is self-preservation, and that was a benefit for me, and it was good for me. But the music was what was really keeping me going. And then when I formed Critical Mass, I was like, oh my God, this band has to be it. This is the one that's going to make it. And in August of 1994, I had, by then I was in my 5th year of managing Mile High Saloon in Denver, Colorado.
Good name.
And in fact, the owner was from Dallas.
Oh,
and
okay.
I think he built the $1 Million Club or something like that. He was a construction guy. So anyway, I had realized, like, for about that last year, it's like, okay, I need to get out of this environment. This is like, I've passed whatever karmic test it is that I needed to do to move on. And this is just going to, start taking me down if I don't move on. I took my annual vacation, took my girlfriend at the time camping in the mountains in South Park, Colorado, the real South Park.
Yeah.
And we ended up climbing this mountain that she picked out. She wanted, I want to climb those boulders up there. I'm like, really? There's no trail or anything. I didn't really want to do it. It was steep and bad, not good footing going up. But I was like, okay. I followed her up. We got to the top of this mountain, and these words just came out of me. Like I wasn't thinking about it, but I said, I wonder if there's any crystals around here. And the moment I said that, I turned my head, and shining in the sunlight, I found this.
Holy shit, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I went over and picked it up. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
And I, like, in that moment, I felt like I was being watched. It was just like, all I can equate it to is like that Jimi Hendrix experience that I had.
Yeah.
Years earlier. It was probably 15 years earlier. And like, my God, and there's no other crystals around that I could find. I, looked. And so something shifted big time. When we're driving back to Denver, I just started getting depressed, thinking about going back into that environment that I didn't want to work in anymore and didn't want to be in anymore. I'm holding this in my hand. I just kept saying, I got to get out of there. I can't do this anymore. Got to get out. I showed up for work the next day. My boss was waiting outside the club with tears in his eyes and my final check in his hand. He said, I'm so sorry. I have to let you go. I can't afford to pay your salary anymore. Boom. And so I was set free. I had no plan, but I knew I had to get out of there. And so the one respect I was relieved, and the other respect is like, holy crap, what am I going to do now? How am I going to pay my rent? And interestingly, that very night, Critical Mass was scheduled to go into a local studio and begin recording a demo. We had 5 nights scheduled. And so we started recording. We recorded a 4-song demo that I still listen to in my car on the way to gigs and driving around town. I rock out to my Critical Mass recordings.
That's awesome. I'm going to look this up. That is so cool.
Yeah, it's not online, but I can. I'll send you a private copy.
Send me some, man. I'd love that. That would be cool.
Yeah. Anyway, then 2 months later, Critical Mass broke up. So it was like the ground had shifted underneath my feet. And
it was inevitable. You guys had just reached a critical mass. So.
It was prophetic,
Stupid math. Don't encourage that kind of shit, dude.
And so I, in my heart, knew this is it. I couldn't do it anymore. It was so heartbreaking, especially because of the close bond I felt with my bandmates and the magic of the music. And also, I didn't mention, I'd been thinking about, how do I want to live my life? I need a more spiritual focus, and I want to live a more holistic lifestyle. This, being in bars all the time, it's not healthy for me. And this is before they banned indoor smoking in Colorado. So, God, I'd get home from work and I'd smell like crap.
Yeah.
It was just, and energetically, I was just always having to shield myself and, protect myself energetically in that environment. A lot of guys think, oh, man, it's a strip club, right on, best job in the world. And I was like, man, I was in hell.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were some fun parts, but overall, it was a dark place to be in every, day in and day out. And I couldn't take it anymore. So I had to leave. So I knew that I was good with my hands, and I had a compassionate heart, and I loved to give massage to my family and friends, and everyone always raved about how good they felt when I touched them. So I was thinking, okay, I'll become a massage therapist. And I've been reading about Reiki and energy healing, and that really drew me, because I was into the Force and grew up watching the Kung Fu TV series, and wanted to thought of myself as a mystic. And I'd also I have to go back in time a little bit, like 5 years prior to this, when I walked into a metaphysical store, the very first metaphysical store that I ever set foot in. I also walked into a wall of sound. They were blasting a recording of the Gyoto monks from Tibet. And it's like this order of monks that they do that deep overtone chant. I didn't even know what a mantra was, but the lady in the store had it blasting on the stereo. I'm like, walking into this strange store, and I'm like, what is that we're listening to? She goes, oh, it's Tibetan monks. Well, that like totally hit me, because about 6 months prior to that, in my state of depression and feeling lost, I was going through a low moment. I went searching for something to connect me with my spirit. Had gone to a local bookstore and picked up a book called Inner Power Secrets from Tibet and the Orient.
Cool
I'm
title.
like,
Yeah.
This is what I need. And that's where I learned what a chakra was. And I learned about chi and prana and, subtle energy systems, and how it's all viewed through the Eastern sciences and philosophies. So then like 6 months later, I hear this sound. She says Tibetan monks. I'm like, what? So I bought the cassette tape, because this is like 1989 or so.
Yeah.
And started meditating to it. And so that mystical path was really calling to me. So after I was unceremoniously dumped from Mile High Saloon and my band broke up, and I'm like, okay, I'm starting a new life now. And I put aside music. I tucked my bass away, and really didn't play music for a couple of years, other than plunking around a few licks on my acoustic guitar time. And so I started massage therapy school and actually began my practice just out of my home 1 month into my education. So I knew I could do this, and I knew a lot of people, made some calls, and boom, I started having clients right away. And I got my Reiki training and flew through that. And I was taking all the meditation courses that I could find, and doing guided meditations, light body meditations, learned about the Merkaba, the energy body, light energy, and physical body meditations, flower of life. And I was just like taking it all in. Once I graduated from massage school, I had an inspiration. It's like, I need to start holding meditation circles in my home. I can like hold a space for people to connect. And so once again, I just like made a few calls. Friends came over, and I started leading guided meditations. While doing that, I saw that people were having like deeper experiences than I even expected. And I came to understand, looking back, that actually playing in these crazy bands, and some of them were, pretty wild experiences, and then working in like an environment like this high dollar strip club. I like to call it a burlesque club, because it was kind of a little more fancy.
It was upscale. Yeah,
it was upscale. Anyway, I was actually practicing something that I do now, and what they call it holding space. I was like keeping a grounded presence amidst chaotic energy. And I was practicing that over and over again in a really challenging environment. So looking back, I'm really grateful for those experiences, because I think it totally affects the state I go into when I'm playing music, whether it's for a live audience or online on Zoom, or it goes into the recordings. And so anyway, leading these guided meditations, eventually I got to a point where it felt like there were no English language words to express what I was feeling and wanting to transmit to the people in the circle. So I started to Om. And with a simple "oh," people told me afterward that they could actually feel energy from my voice moving around them and through them. And they were, experiencing a shift with that. So, I thought that was pretty cool. And I had been trying to mimic the sound of the Tibetan monks for all this time since I got that tape, and it was not successful. But when I Om'd, I was hearing more texture in the voice. And so I started to explore that and just slow down some mantras I had learned and slow down the pronunciation. And I was hearing more tones come out of the voice. And these are called overtones, also known as harmonics. And a lot of people ask, what is overtone singing? What's throat singing? It's a way of manipulating sound from your voice, manipulating the sound with your body to emphasize the overtones or harmonics. So what's a harmonic? What's an overtone? If you pluck a single string on a guitar, for example, we recognize the note that it's tuned to. That's the fundamental tone, because there's a certain number of pulses coming off that string per second. That's how we measure it. That's the frequency. That's the hertz, pulse waves per second. Well, those pulses double on themselves and then double again and again and again into infinity. And those multiplications of the fundamental tone are harmonics or overtones. And so by manipulating the shape of my body, my mouth, lips, tongue, throat, and where I place the sound in my body, I'm able to emphasize certain harmonics and overtones. They're more audible to the human ear. They're already there. Everyone has overtones in their voice, just as you're speaking. We just don't notice because we've not learned to listen for them. But they're there. And then as you shape it, we bend the sound literally with the body. We can amplify them, and it'll sound like more than one voice or more than one note coming out of the voice at one time. And that's essentially what throat singing and overtone singing is. And so I started to hear about this concept called sound healing, and found some books about it. And there's this guy that lives in Boulder, Colorado, named Jonathan Goldman. And he has a ton of albums out. He's been studying this stuff for decades, a bunch of books. I don't even know how many books he has right now, but I picked up one of his books. And I saw that he's giving a weekend workshop up in Boulder, which is like a half-hour drive from Denver, where I was living. So, of course, I went. Over the course of that weekend, he didn't teach a whole lot of vocal technique, a lot of theory and information and listening, but he did at one point demonstrate that deep Tibetan overtone voice. He did one long Om, and then he said, "Some people will get this after being around others who do it." And in that moment, I said, "That's me. I know it. I'm destined to." I was just like, "I got this." Next day, I'm like working it, and all of a sudden it came out of my voice. I'm like, "Oh my God!" And then I did it again. I'm like, "Holy shit!" It's happening. So I had Jonathan Goldman's phone number to his office. Got on the phone, dialed it up, voicemail. So I left him a voicemail. Oh, hey Jonathan, it worked. Thanks.
That's a hard flex, Matthew. That's awesome, man. That is awesome.
So that's how music started to come back to me, through meditation and healing arts and exploring the voice and the overtones. And it was a slow unfolding, and I just started incorporating more sound into the meditations. And in 1999, that summer, I went on a little trip to Mount Shasta, went to a little retreat there, and I met the woman who would be my wife. She'd come down from Vancouver, British Columbia, just across the border in Canada. And we had a long distance relationship for 4 years. Fortunately for me, I had some clients that worked for the airlines, and I could do trade outs, one massage for a buddy pass to get on the airlines. And, pre 9/11, it was pretty easy to get on standby and just, strategically pick when I wanted to fly. And I usually got on the flights that I was aiming for, and that made it easy to come up and visit. In 2003, we got married and I moved up here. And 2005, I found a throat singer here in Vancouver, who had a group called One Voice Harmonic Choir. And a mutual friend gave me his phone number. So called that up, got his voicemail. When I do, left a big long boom on his voicemail, and that was pretty much my audition. I was inducted into One Voice Harmonic Choir, and so it took me. It helped me see that meditation could also be incorporated into performance. It helped me make that leap from holding circles where I'm leading guided meditation with sound healing to, okay, this is what we do, and we going on stage now and performing it. And I really saw the potential and continued my own explorations. It was really great fun to have like a lab, because we would and rehearsals often start with just improv between me and 3 or 4 other guys. We'd bounce off each other, and ideas would flow and come up. Well, in 2006, my permanent residency still had not been final. I hadn't gotten final approval for my permanent residency in Canada. I'd been in limbo for like 3 years, and I got booted out of Canada.
How do you get booted out of Canada?
How does that happen?
Yeah, right.
I was not a criminal or anything. I didn't do anything
very
wrong.
polite about it.
Yeah, they were. Sorry, or sorry, I should say.
Sorry, you know what this is all about. Go on,
right. So I had to leave. I went back to Colorado, started over again, managed to keep our marriage alive. And during that time, I did more public presentations of sound healing meditation, or sound healing circle. And then a friend of mine invited me out to LA to visit, and he took me to a couple of conscious dances, some ecstatic dances, and told the DJs about me. And the DJs let me, in the middle of their set, they like each time, there's like on a Saturday and a Sunday, 2 different DJs, they handed me the mic. They brought all the music down to a drone and handed me the mic. And I started chanting. Yeah. And then afterward, people are coming up to me saying, "You got CDs? Do you have a website? Where can I get more of this?" I'm like,
yeah.
It hit me. It's like, holy crap, this is real. I'm in freaking LA, and these people want more of what I got. I need an album. I need a website. What am I doing? So that lit a fire under my ass. I've been thinking about it, and it's like, okay, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I'm going to manifest recording an album, and I'm going to get a website. And so I did. And found a friend in Denver that was also a big fan of what I was doing. He had been to some of my events, and got a good deal on a budget recording of my first album, and recorded that. And this is right before I was going to move back to Vancouver to be with my wife. We had gotten an attorney on our deal and interfacing with Canada Immigration, and we thought the way things were moving, I could move back. Well, so we did a road trip up to Canada from Colorado, from Denver, in January of 2009. Had this magical journey. There had been really heavy blizzards, like right before we left, and it was like the sky cleared like a day before, all along the way, and the roads were dry for the whole way in January 2009.
That synchronicity stuff, man.
Yeah, and it's like we went back through Mount Shasta, where we met, and stayed there for a few days, and it was all magic. Then we get to the border, they wouldn't let me in.
No, politely.
Right. It's like, what are you doing? Oh, I'm moving back to Canada. My immigration's been reactivated, and they're like, "Oh, pull over there, please." And so after, I was just told, we're not letting you in. And by the way, if you want to come in for a visit now, you have to show that you have residence in the States, either own or lease, and have to have employment. You have to have enough money to cover whatever expenses you could incur while you're here. And I said, well, how much money is that? Well, whatever the agent you're talking to that day decides. And so I'm like, holy crap, I had to spend my savings on my new album, recording it. And I was counting on getting to Canada and starting a new massage therapy practice. And, I was pretty much tapped out. So basically I'm homeless at the border, and I'm sitting there in my car. It's at night, and I'm like, okay, God, What now? And I got like nothing.
Crickets. That's what.
Yeah, crickets.
You got Canadian crickets.
Canadian winter crickets. So I ended up going back to this town called Bellingham, which is about a half-hour drive south of the border, which I had only known by passing through and some of my journeys up to Vancouver. My wife's son came and picked her up at the border, and I got a hotel in Bellingham. And my wife came down the next day, and we just decided, I'm just going to stay here until this all sorts out. I think, I'm going to get accepted. It's only a matter of time. They'll let me into Canada. I'm just going to stay here. Well, I called my mom and let her know. I thought I should let my mom know. Well, Mom, I'm in Bellingham in a hotel. Didn't get into Canada. Turns out a friend of hers from Alaska, where I was born, had moved to Canada after her husband died. She said, call my friend. She might know someone or have a room for you or something, So I called this lady, no answer, no voicemail. And then my mom said, look in the phone book. I think at least one of her kids lives there. And I found the last name. And this is a last name that I always heard growing up because my mom kept in touch with this lady. And they used to send us homemade Christmas gifts every year. And my mom was one of the people who could give you a download of what all these distant relatives and friends I'd never remembered what they're all up to, in 15 minutes. Oh, so-and-so got married and this one got divorced and they had kids and mom, okay, Mom, yeah, whatever. Well, all of a sudden I called up this gentleman, got his voicemail. I didn't do an ohm.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
I said, hey, this is a voice from your very distant past, because I was like 2.5 when my family left Alaska. And but our parents were friends, and my mom gave me, your mom's number, and this is what's going on. I'm, trying to move to Canada, blah, blah, blah. Spit out my story in the 1-minute version. He calls me back. We chat on my third day in Bellingham. And he says, you know what? I've got a furnished apartment here in town that I got so my siblings could have a place to stay while they're visiting our mom. It's empty for the next 3 weeks. And you could stay there for free while you're looking for your own place. Ta-da!
Bink.
Yeah, so check this out. This is on my third day in Bellingham. Okay. And the apartment number that I ended up staying in for 3 weeks, courtesy of Tom, was apartment 201. So 2 + 1, that's a 3.
Yeah.
Stayed there for 3 weeks. When I got my own apartment, it was apartment number 3. I'm the third child in my family, in my nuclear family. Our parents, Tom and I, our parents met through the daughter of one of my grandmother's best friends. My grandmother, my mom's mom, this connection, had died in my 3rd year of being alive. And so she reaches through the spiral of time and scores me an apartment in my time of need. Her daughters, and it's through 3 generations. Because it's her best friend's daughter introduced my parents and Tom's parents.
Yeah.
So he and I are like the 3rd generation of this relationship, of this friendship. Well, when I finally got to move to Canada, my social insurance number, if you do the numerology on it, which is, social insurance, just like Social Security, comes to a 3. The numerology on my license plate came to a 3. So just saying. Oh, and before I left Denver, I met a lady there that said, oh, you're going back to Vancouver. You have to check out Bellingham. It's magic there. And she gave me 3 contacts in Bellingham. So I pulled those out in my first week. And 2 were people that welcomed me like family into their homes and had me over for dinner and, gave me tips on where to go in town. And, it's beautiful. And then the 3rd was a store called Wise Awakening. And it's a metaphysical store where they really emphasize sound healing and they really promote sound healing. And they had this incredible sound healing chamber, this like sacred geometry chamber that you could lie down on a table that had speakers underneath it, and speakers over it, and they did sound healing with recorded music in it. I'm like, whoa, yeah, cool. I gotta go here. And I've got a new album, you know. So I looked up, I saw the owner's name and picture on the website. I'm like, Diana, I'm gonna meet you, Diana. Well, in my first full week in Bellingham, I believe that the day was January 21st, 2/1. I just got this hit. It's like, today's the day I have to go to Wise Awakening. And I'm like, there's going to be gatekeepers. I know it. But I got to find a way to talk to Diana and share my music with her. Well, I puttered around for early in the day. And then in the afternoon, I just got this hit. Go now. Go now. I'm like, okay. So I threw my instruments in the trunk of my car, drove down there, walk in the store. There's one customer there. And lo and behold, there's Diana behind the counter. Hi, can I help you? I'm like, hi, you're Diana? And I'm like, she goes, yes. I'm like, my name is Matthew Kocel. I'm a throat singer and sound healer. I came here to meet you. And she says, oh, and then right that moment, these two guys walk in, kind of in a huff, these two guys, like the energy shifted. And now, I just want to preface this. I'm not knocking anyone's religion, but these guys were like whack. Okay. So she goes over and says, excuse me, I just need to help these guys. So, hi, can I help you? And he's like, yes, so we're Christians and we want to know, by what name do you call your God?
Yeah. Yeah. Shitheads.
Yeah. And so Diana's trying to respond as lovingly as possible. And this guy was just there to confront. And they had been watching some crazy videos on YouTube and convinced that this was a place that is promoting false religion and worshiping crystals and, you know, false gods. And they're like ready to like throw down, you know?
Yeah.
And so I'm witnessing this, and you know, Diana's being loving, and this guy's just like bullying her energetically and verbally. And so I stepped in. I'm like, you know, I'm thinking, okay, I can speak Bible too, buddy. You know, so I tried to engage him on that level, which only inflamed him more. So I'm like, okay, time for some psychological jujitsu. I said, look, I want to hear what you have to say. Let's go outside and talk. It's like, oh, okay. So I just headed for the door, and they followed me out. And we stood out there on the sidewalk in the freezing cold for over an hour. And I just realized I just need to hear this guy out. So I just asked him questions and didn't debate. Let him talk, then I'd ask more questions. And finally, I got to share a couple of religious jokes that I knew wouldn't offend them, got them to laugh a little bit, and they both shook my hand, said, God bless you, and they walked away. And it was about closing time for the store, but I walked back in and reconnected with my new friend, Diana. And she said, thank you. You know, nothing has ever happened like that in the store before. And she never would work behind the counter. She was always in her back office. But she had 3 employees. One was out sick and 2 were out of town. So she had to be behind the counter that day. The timing could not have been more perfect, you know, other than like Jimi Hendrix singing to me while I'm reading the lyrics in his book.
It's these beautiful breadcrumbs that the universe leaves for you, man. It's amazing.
Yeah. So she said, what did you say you do again? I said, well, I'm a throat singer and I do this sound healing music. And I just was wondering if I could maybe share it with you personally. And she said, yeah, you know, I'm busy this week, schedule an appointment. So I did. And when I came back the following week, played for her for about 30 minutes. And, she came out of it with tears in her eyes. She said, we have got to help you share this music with the world, get this music out to the world. So they had a little theater attached to the back of the store. And on the spring equinox that year, March 21st, I was like the headline act. They had me on stage and people coming in, and that was like my musical introduction to Bellingham. One of the musical introductions. Well, so going back to the day that this confrontation happened and this, you know, synchronicity happened at the store, that evening there was a female group of Tuvan throat singers playing a concert at the local historic theater in Bellingham. So I had to go.
You had to go.
Yeah, and I just had some rough draft copies of my CD printed up. I didn't have the artwork on it yet, but I'm like, okay, I'm going to connect with some Tuvans, you know, and they'll dig my music. I'll take it, and I'll give them my CD, and who knows what'll happen. So I had put 2 copies in my pocket. During intermission, they had a merch table out in the lobby, and I saw, an American-looking guy and an Asian guy. I'm like, okay, that guy's got to be a Tuvan. I'm going to go talk to him. And so I did, and we were chatting him up, and I said, hey, are you a throat singer? He goes, yeah. And I go, me too. I do Kagura, which is what they call that deep sound. He goes, oh, he said, let me hear it. So I said, oh, and he joined in with me. Oh. We did it together right there at the table. And when our breath ended, we both laughed and shook hands. I said, hey, I have a CD. Can I give it to you? And he said, yeah, sure. I hand him the CD. Immediately, this elder couple steps out of the crowd and says, is that you on that CD? Do you have one for sale? Can we buy it? I'm like, yeah, sold him this CD right there. And my first CD sale in Bellingham. From behind them steps a native Alaskan woman. She says, I have an Aleutian dance troupe. We've forgotten how to throat sing. Will you teach us?
So cool.
Yeah. And I said, yeah, I don't know your music. I don't know your songs, but I'll teach you whatever I know. So when I taught my first throat singing class in Bellingham at Wise Awakening, Becky was there as my guest, this native Alaskan woman. And she and Diana, owner of Wise Awakening, they both got that technique that afternoon.
That's so cool.
They're both going a little bit higher range than a man, but I learned at that concert the women could actually do it. It's the first time I heard a woman do that particular vocal technique. And since then, lots of women have gotten it. Not everyone gets the technique right away, and some people maybe not at all, but it comes when they're ready for it. And I've had people get it in my classes that same day. So that was like this magical synchronicity thing when I just like had totally committed to the path of working with sound and music as my main service to the world, to help people make this connection. Long story short, not so short. And I lived in Bellingham in apartment number 3 for 8 months. And during that time, made a couple of road trips back to Colorado because the work was good, and I had clients there waiting for me. And on the second trip in Colorado, I just ducked into a Kinko's to check my email, and there's the message from our attorney. Congratulations, you've been accepted to Canada. You can move here and be a permanent resident. And the moment I read that, my phone rang as my wife. Did you check your email? I said, yeah, I just saw it. What? So it was perfect timing because my lease was ending at the end of that month. And August 26, 2009, drove up to the border with my stuff in tow. And the guy stamped my passport, shook my hand and said, welcome to Canada.
Yeah.
And now I'm a permanent resident of Canada.
Well, what's cool about your story just in general is, number one, it's fascinating. Number two, you're fascinating and wonderful. And number three, it's interesting how many synchronicities your life, or divine timing, if you want to put it that way, how that plays a role in not only the decision making that you have, or actually what happened, it seems like, especially on the strip club thing, whenever you lost your job, but you didn't lose it. You asked for to be gone from it, so it released you from it. And it's interesting how the universe can work like that, especially when you make your mind and set things up, and then you trusted the process. Plus, you were given signposts along the way that you knew the significance of. So tell the, if you don't mind, just the significance of numerology and the number 3 and how things reduce down, because I don't know how many folks out there are aware of that and how that works.
Well, 3 is like, you can look at it as the Holy Trinity, Mother, Father, Child. We're on the 3rd planet from the sun in the 3rd dimension. 3 trimesters as we're birthed. There's 3 layers to our skin. There's 3 sections of the eye. There's 3s throughout our anatomy, like the shoulder girdle is 3 bones. The pelvis is 3 bones. All these key joints in our bodies are in 3s. Where gravity hits our cranium is the junction of 3 bones. It is like my wife wrote a song all about the 3s in the body and in the universe. It is, the more you look for 3s, the more you'll find. There's 3 layers and fascia, and yeah, it's just
and blind lemon, incredible. Of course. I mean there's a magic number. Yes, it is.
Forgot about that.
Three in the family. Anyway, so it is a significant number because three, even in geometry, that's the lowest amount of sides that you need to enclose a space. So, and then even Tesla goes on, and he was a big proponent of frequencies and things like that as well, to say that if we understood the relationship between 3, 6, and 9, we would get the entire universe. And of course, 3, 6, and 9 are all multiples of 3, and so you get that element of it. But I love that you had pointed out that even something being 201. So what you do is you add those numbers up, guys, and that gives you 3, right? And so everything can be reduced down to a number, right? And even multiple numbers. So you just add them up, and then you add those, and you add those, and then they end up being 3. And so it's interesting that it was so significant that all of the things along your journey took you to a number that is not only biologically and geometrically important, but also you recognize the importance of it for you personally. I think that that's very, very cool, man. Well, congratulations. So I'm just curious. So Canada, it doesn't work like the United States. People will come here illegally to get married and stay, but I guess you can't get married and go up there. They have a different rule about it.
Yeah, it's changed since the good old days, because a lot of my friends at home were thinking, what? I thought you just moved to Canada, got married, and you're in. Well, no.
Seen a bunch of movies about it.
I worked in the 60s and early 70s, but not now. It's not so
no more
easy.
Asylum for you, American. Okay.
Right.
Dirty American.
I think they had enough of us.
Yeah. Now, I definitely want to talk about the music that you make now and what you're doing. So also, I don't know, because you have this on your Instagram there, but you have the coolest business card ever. Sound healing, medicine music, cosmic throat singer, and sonic alchemist. How dope is that? I just want a shirt that says sonic alchemist. That's pretty cool, man. So whenever all of these things lined up and you were finally doing this, what are you doing now with your music is what I want to talk about, if you don't mind.
Well, I'm just about to release my third album.
Come on. Why the hell not? That's perfect. Divine timing, man. This is perfect.
Yeah. So
do you know what this isn't going to come out today, but do you know what today is?
Today's April 3rd. Oh my God.
Son of a bitch. I know. Now this doesn't release on April 3rd, but we're still going to talk about that. That's when we're recording this, and we set this up a week, 2 weeks ago, a couple weeks back. Anyway, pretty cool, man. Pretty damn cool. I like it. It's meant to be, brother. All right. So now with your music and your third album, which we're going to play a track from at the end of this recording, so you guys stick around for that. And of course, everything will be linked in the show notes as far as how to find him, his other records, your music on SoundCloud, and your Instagram, because I want folks to go out and support you and follow up. So what do you do with your music now?
Well, pre-COVID, I was doing a lot of live events, and that's how you and I got connected. I played a variety of venues, everything from yurts and caves to churches, yoga studios. I did 9 shows in the Vancouver Planetarium back in 2015 and 2016 as part of a multimedia presentation on sacred geometry. And everything in between. I'm always looking for an audience to share the music with. And it's brought me down the coast to the west coast of the U.S., around Western Canada, I should say, the Pacific Northwest. I have played out in New York and Connecticut, and in 2018 and 2019, I played in France. In 2019, I played in Belgium as well. It has been an amazing journey, and really grateful for that. It's something so priceless to me to be able to share with people in a live setting. And so on one of my journeys to Colorado, I was introduced to some folks that are friends of Ellis, and they brought me to Texas again in 2019, or was it 28? It was summer of 2019. And I've played in medicine ceremonies, plant medicine ceremonies, and breath work, and the music supports all these expansive practices, anything related to meditation or to help people center. I've played for schools where people were, kids weren't experienced in meditation, not even, didn't know really what it was, but they responded to the music and caught some really good reactions to it. And so these folks brought me to Texas, and I played in Austin, and also for a medicine ceremony outside of San Antonio. Ellis brought me back to Austin to play in November of 2019, and that was really an honor that he went out of his way to just sponsor me to come down. And I was able to bring in the percussionist who plays with me on my third album, Gilly Gonzalez, who lives in Denver, Colorado. Gilly's my guy for percussion. He's like so talented in such a way. He's a world drummer, plays all these ethnic drums, but he comes from a rock background like me. So there's that element as well. And he totally gets my vibe. And the way the elements that he brought to this third album, I couldn't be happier with. And he was available. So we brought him in to play a concert in Austin, and Ellis made that happen. And, in the last, I guess, a month or so ago, Ellis and I were talking. He was asking, how can I support you? I said, well, anyone who's got a podcast or a playlist on Spotify or anything, hook me up. Let's, and that's how you and I got connected. So with all the restrictions on, like here in Vancouver right now, they're not even allowing public singing in an enclosed space. So I'm not doing that right now. So I'm doing live concerts on Zoom, which is an adjustment, but the feedback I'm getting is really the same level that people would reflect back to me at live events. I'll tell you, as soon as I'm able to play live again, I'm going to do that. But I've also, over the years realized there's only one of me, and there's a lot of people out there in the world. I can't spend the rest of my life on tour. I'm not getting any younger. Damn it. I feel like I'm 17, but the calendar tells me otherwise.
Yeah.
And anyway, so I had been intending to do more of an online presence and connect with people through the internet that way. And I'm focusing on building a new online platform to showcase and share the music, and with guided meditations as well. I've coming full circle with guided meditations, and it's a natural fit for me since that's what brought me back into music. I'm in the process of recording some meditations to go with my music as support, and will help people get a deeper experience out of the music. And so I'll be offering that. It's all going to be on my website, MatthewKocel.com. And I'm giving people, I know you'll link this later, but I have a site called MatthewMusic.net. And there's 2 T's in Matthew, in case anyone's wondering, MatthewMusic.net. And if you go there and sign up, I'll send you 3 days of healing music. And now that the new album's coming out, I'm going to tack that on. It'll be 4 days of healing music. I'm going to put in the Song of the Ancients, which is the title track of this new album.
That is so cool. That's the one we're going to play at the end of this show for everybody. Yeah. It's incredible, man. I love your music. I love you. I think you are great. You're a lot of fun. You're an awesome dude. Get out of here with that.
Couldn't help it.
Well,
reflex.
It's interesting as well with the with Ellis, is because he is one of those guys. I don't know if he told you, but I knew him under a different name a long time ago, and he used to play bass with me because I was a bit of a musician as well for a little while, and that's how we met. And then he's one of those dudes that will vanish off the face of the earth for about 5 to 7 years, and then all of a sudden calls you out of the blue. Luckily with the same number, or he'll text you, "Hey, this is Ellis, and I changed my number," and then we just call and pick right back up, like we hadn't talked, like we hadn't missed any time at all. And he did this recently, and that's right about the time I was just gearing up with this new show. I had a show before this. That was the how I describe it. That's the caterpillar. This is the butterfly. So this is a totally different deal. And so I ramped it back up. He reached out. I think he was seeing the stuff that I was putting out, and then that's how we reconnected. And I just told him, "Man, this is great. It's so good to talk to you." And he told me about Peru and stuff, which I want to ask you about as well. And then he said that he is going to be doing something in Colorado pretty soon with plant medicine ceremonies and a place to do that. They're building like yurt and cabins and all that kind of stuff. And when he moves up there, he's actually going to come up and be in studio. So while he's here, he'll be here for the weekend or whatever. We'll definitely Zoom you, man, and just say hi and see how you're doing. So that'll be cool to reconnect him. I haven't seen him in say 12, 15 years probably, but
Wow.
it's just one of those things. And maybe talk to him 3 or 4 times, but lately we've been talking a little bit more anyhow. So it's very cool how this works, man. And once you do get in that soul tribe, you get a new soul tribe going, and then old soul tribe people, they don't leave because it's a soul tribe, man. This is how this works. No matter what time or distance or anything like that, you always reconnect with the ones that you're meant to. And I think that that's wonderful. So tell me about your experience with Peru, man.
Well, my first year having been landed in Canada and as a legit resident here.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I was invited to play for a group healing session with a healer from Hawaii. It's actually a Filipino lady, but had been living in Hawaii for many years. And she would lead a guided meditation and run energy for the group at the same time. And this person had told her about me. She told me later that she tuned into me and said, yeah, I can work with Matthew, so go ahead and invite him. So she was going on faith and intuition as well, and as was I. So I showed up with my instruments, and while Maxima is her name, she led this healing meditation. I played my music, and one of the people that was there that night with his partner was Jamie Alvarez Acosta, who is from Cusco, Peru. Jamie's real deal. Now, in Espanol, they would pronounce his name Jaime, but I guess because he comes to North America so much, he decided to let people just call him Jamie to keep the confusion, minimize confusion. But anyway, so I call him Jamie. After the circle was complete, people are socializing and stuff, and he caught my eye and he says, come here, brother, come here. Pulled me aside and says, the masters I work with say you need to come to Peru.
What an opening line, man.
Right.
Awesome.
What do you say to that?
You gotta go.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. I'm like, Jimi Hendrix, is that you up there?
Right.
So, yeah, he says, look, sound opens the doorways in these temples. I mean, it's like totally dead on serious. Sound opens the doorways in these temples. And you have the key. Come to Peru. I'll take you to the temples. You can sing there and, just come. Well, I didn't have the means to just jump on an airplane and go. So Jamie, his partner, is Canadian. And just in the last few years, he ended up moving here. They now have a child. But anyway, he was making several trips to this area each year. And we started working together when he was coming here. And he had many events, but we would do a special event where he would set up an altar, do opening prayers and ceremony, and I would play my music while he would circulate around the room, running energy for the group and also with individuals in the group. And so we developed a really nice relationship that way. And as 2013, and Jamie also, he was leading sacred journeys to Peru, taking people on pilgrimages to many powerful sacred sites throughout Peru. You could probably spend a lifetime just exploring in that one country, all these significant places. And he invited me to come as a co-facilitator. So that was my ticket. And I brought my instruments with me to Peru. And got to play and sing in some of these temples, not all of them, but where it was possible, and in ceremony. One night on our way to Lake Titicaca, we camped out in a high desert valley, and we had arrived at night. He had some advanced guys set up a campsite for us, tents and everything was just right waiting for us. We had a little bit of broth, and we then went to had a campfire, and I set up my instruments by the fire, and we stayed up through the night in ceremony. I was singing and chanting, and Jamie would share his wisdom teachings and prayers in between some of my music. A few other people shared songs, and we were up literally till just before dawn. And I managed to get a little bit of sleep, just before the sun came over the ridge and hit my tent, and then turned the tent into an oven. So it's time to get up. And interestingly, I was standing outside my tent doing a little morning practice, and I'd been looking for a talking stick. Gosh, I left it downstairs, but I've been looking for a special talking stick that I could carry with me, because I like to pass around a talking stick after my circles and let people share from their experience if they were inspired to do so. And there was this twisted little piece of wood. It's from a shrub that was struck by lightning. I knew that's the one, and sure enough, picked it up, and there was energy. I'm like, yeah, okay, you're coming with me.
That's awesome.
Well, since that day, a couple thousand people probably have held that stick in circles, and from LA to Brussels and France. But anyway, that morning we were walking through this valley and seeing these amazing rock formations for the first time, because it was nighttime when we arrived. And Jamie showed me, he says, "Look over there, brother, there's tombs underneath those rocks where the ancestors are resting, totally undisturbed, and this was not a public place where there's like a park and, it was being tended to. It's just like, just off the mainstream path. And these tombs have been left alone. We didn't go disturb them or anything. But right after he showed me that, I started hearing this melody in my head, like voices singing a melody. And it just kept repeating over and over again. And so I'm paying attention, and started to hum along, and it just kept going. And I was hearing like thunder drums. Boom. And I'm like, okay. So I started to sing it out loud, and I started to sing it for our companions on this journey. And I pulled Jamie aside. Jamie, I've just given a song. I sing it to him. He said, yeah, it's good. It's good. I tried to record it. I had a little iPod with me. Okay, I got to preserve this and make sure I can, sing it later. So I tried to record on my iPod. I thought I did, but it didn't record. Later that day, I could not remember the melody. Like, no, and it's not on my iPod. I'm like, no, please, okay, I promise, I'll respect the music. I will share it. And I just prayed. And next day, still couldn't remember it. But the following night, just before I went to bed, and at this time we were in, I think it's called Puno, just outside of Lake Titicaca, or on the shore of Lake Titicaca. But it's just going to bed, and all of a sudden, ooh, I could hear it. And I had a real handheld digital recorder, and so I recorded it on that. And that's the melody for the song of the Ancients, and
Yes.
That's why the album has that title. So it was obviously quite a magical time being in Peru and visiting these incredible portals, where they built temples. And what an honor, first of all, just to be invited there by someone like Jamie is the real deal, and to be invited to share my music and chanting there. I feel like I'm still processing everything that came to me. At the end of the very last song on the album, there's a recording of the jungle where we spent our last portion of the journey. Most of our time was in the highlands of Peru, the Andean tradition, but we did go have 5 days in the Amazon basin before leaving Peru. And on one of the last days there, the sound of the jungle as the insects and birds are waking up is just incredible. So I took my handheld recorder and set it outside my hut and just let it run for a good 10 minutes or so. And so Pachamama gets the last song on this new album.
That's so cool.
And,
So cool. And it's nice the respect that you have for it, because you are willing to receive things like that. You are more in tune to what's going on with the nature of these things, and damn near anybody I've ever met, man, for sure. So it's just refreshing to hear that you're so in touch with the ways of the ancients, or you're so in touch with nature in that way. You respect the culture, and that's why those tombs were left undisturbed. There's just a different respect and reverence for that culture. And Peru is like, it's on my bucket list, man. We got to go check that out. So I want to Machu Picchu, Cusco, all that. I want to go see it, man. So you're saying I've got a hookup for Peru is what you're telling me.
Yeah.
Oh, dope. All right. Well, we'll go, and I can't wait. That'll be a lot of fun, man. You only if you go with me, dude. That'll be fun.
Okay, cool.
Well, Matthew, I think we're gonna cap it here, man. But I want to have you back on, dude. We're definitely gonna play your song at the end here. Was there any final thoughts or words or anything that you had for anybody out here?
Yeah, well, I'm really excited to share this new album, Song of the Ancients. It's and the first two are the first two albums are definitely medicine, and a lot of people have shared their experience of transformation and healing or insight that's come to them just while listening to the albums. But Song of the Ancients, as soon as I launch it, I'm going to do a special thing to help people share it. And so I'm going to have a deal where it's only like $9, and there'll be some bonus tracks in addition to the hour-long album and a guided meditation to help you go deeper with the music. And if you purchase that for $9, there's going to be an invitation to be an affiliate and or an ambassador. And you'll be given a special link, and anyone you share that link with, if they purchase this package, you get the money. None of it comes to me. Yeah. Now, people might think, well, what's the trick? What's the catch? No catch. You just get all the money. There will be, on the order page, once that's made, there's going to be add-ons. I'm going to offer my other two albums for like $5. And so that'll come to me. And my system will fulfill the order. So that's how I benefit, because I'll get someone on my email list that I can start a relationship with and share more music and videos with. But you can check out the videos I've done so far on YouTube. Just look at my name, Matthew Kocel, on YouTube. And anyway, so I think it's really important to be generous and to share abundance with the healing music. And can't think of a better way to incentivize people to share it. And everyone wins, because it's spreading healing sound and music and abundance at the same time.
So cool.
So yeah, really, this came to me like a couple of weeks ago that this is how I'm going to do it. And
that's brilliant. I mean, what in the pay it forward is going on here? I think that is so cool, man. I think that is so cool. I love it, brother. And yes, so I will be linking to that, your YouTube, your website, and your music website.net as well. Matthew, cannot thank you enough, dude. This has been an absolute pleasure, man. We are definitely going to have to do this again. And your soul tribe, I just keep scooping you guys up. It's great. We just keep finding each other out here, man, and it's really refreshing.
I'm so grateful. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank
you. For anyone out there, if you know anyone else with a podcast you could hook me up with, or playlists on Spotify, you can playlist my music. It's a big help. But let's connect.
Absolutely. And I'll pass your name on to a couple folks as well, because I'm in that cycle. So, yeah, well, I'll pass you along, man. I think you're great. You're a wonderful guest, and you're a wonderful person anyway. I don't know why anybody wouldn't want to talk to you. And you have some dope message. So thank you so much, man. Honestly, it's been a true honor. Thank you.
For me as well. Thank you, Brandon.
A tremendous thanks to Matthew Kocel for joining us on the show today. He is absolutely incredible. I loved hearing his journey through his music, and especially what he's doing now. That is so cool, how he got to where he is, making this amazing music that he does. So stick around, guys, because his song of the Ancients, is going to follow this right away, and I'll play it in its full version, because he gave me permission to do that. So you guys, close your eyes, enjoy this music. He is absolutely fantastic. If you would like to find us, the show here, we actually just launched our website. So it is going to be expandingrealitypodcast.com. That is where you can find the links to the Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and Patreon as well. So if you guys feel like you get something out of this show, you feel like you want to show a little love to your boy here and contribute a little bit to that, you can do so with the link on expandingrealitypodcast.com to Patreon, or just go down here in the bottom of the show notes. I've linked the Patreon directly, as well as the website, so you guys go check that out. Thanks again for listening, guys. You guys are very special to me, and y'all make this worth doing. And just wanted to say that, do something nice for somebody else, guys. Buy a meal for some stranger that you don't know. Pick up a piece of litter if you see it on the ground. This is our planet, too. Pet a strange dog, because dogs are awesome. That's more for you than anything, but the dog will probably like it, too. As well as get out of the left-hand lane. You guys know how annoying that is. If you don't know how annoying that is, and I'm just telling you this for the first time, then surround yourself with a better group of friends, because I should have told you this by now. Get out of that left-hand lane. It's for passing only. Thank you. As well as you guys just go out into the world and just in general, like always, just be good to one another. We'll see you next time.